Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, for those of you who've been hanging out here on the channel for a while now, you know we've spent a lot of time and energy talking about the ATF. Yes, they have become quite creative in the last several months, and they certainly are telling us about all sorts of new enforcement efforts that they're going to be going on. We have done several videos on that. And whether we're dealing with solvent traps, Form 1s, the forced reset trigger, 80% lowers, AR pistols, whatever it may be, the ATF has it out for many lawful and responsible gun owners. Which begs the question, of course, how are they going to enforce all of these new regulations? Well, that leads us to today's question, which is, why is the ATF about to hire so many new agents? Okay, before we get rolling, you guys know the drill. If you like this video, click the like button. If you want to stay up to date on issues related to this kind of stuff, click the subscribe button. Click the little bell logo if you want to be notified when we post new videos. And most importantly, let's keep the comments and discussions coming. That's how we're going to make sure we're getting our videos out to more lawful and responsible gun owners like yourself. Okay, well, as I mentioned earlier, the ATF has really been on a rampage this last several months. And we have been dealing with solvent traps. We've been dealing with Form 1s. We've been dealing with suppressors. We've been dealing with the forced reset trigger. We're hearing rumors about 80% lowers. We certainly know about all sorts of rumors as it relates to AR pistols and trying to reclassify millions of them into short-barreled rifles. My God, how is the ATF actually going to enforce all of these new regulations? Well, we had an opportunity to take a look at President Biden's presidential budgetary request. And there's some things in there that I think may begin to shed some light and answer some of these questions for us. Now, before I get into the actual budget request and the numbers, I want to make something very well known to you, the viewers. And this is something that has become very clear when you take a look at all of the ATF's proposed legislation and you take a look at what's going on here. And that is that the ATF may have been designed at one point to regulate the firearms industry, but under this current administration, the ATF is being used to dismantle or attempt to dismantle the firearm industry. The amount of pressure and regulations that we are going to be placing on FFLs nationwide through the implementation of these regulations is clearly, and I don't think there's any questioning about it, meant to try to break the firearms industry. We know that people with a certain political agenda have for many years decried for disarming otherwise lawful and responsible gun owners nationwide. Under the current political environment, however, it appears that the ATF has joined in that political purpose. We see instances of this occur all of the time. Take a look at solvent traps that were otherwise lawfully purchased, many of which were milled out appropriately using ATF Form 1s, now being rejected. Take a look at all of you who went out and purchased what was called Form 1 kits from reputable manufacturers, did everything exactly according to the law, jumped through every hoop that the ATF threw out in front of you, only to find out that, well, you too are being rejected. Think of all of you who went out and bought forced reset triggers, wide open triggers, binary triggers, any of these other really cool technological advancements in the firearm industry. At the time that you purchased them, you were told by everybody that you were purchasing lawful components, only to learn now that the ATF thinks you are in possession, unlawfully I might add, of a machine gun. Take a look at how many of you purchased blocks of aluminum, or what we sometimes call 80% lowers, or sometimes they're called unfinished frames or receivers. You complied with everything in the law. You did everything according to exactly what you were permitted, what you had the right to do. And now you're being told that you're in lawful possession of an untraceable firearm. Take a look at how many of you went out and constructed AR pistols or purchased an AR pistol, again, complying with all ATF regulations, only to learn now that the ATF wants to reclassify each and every one of those as a short barrel rifle. You begin to see what's happening here and the movement that's afoot. Now, when we take a look at President's budgetary request, what we find is that there is a $20.6 billion, yes, that's with a B, $20.6 billion request of Congress for additional funding for the Department of Justice. And you go, oh my God, what does the Department of Justice need an additional nearly $21 billion worth of funding? Well, if you go into the fine print, this is what you learn. What you learn is that a big chunk of this money is for the ATF to hire 140 new special agents. Those are field agents in the field. But in addition to that, they have plans to hire at least 160 industry operation inspectors, IOIs. Now, for those of you who are FFLs or familiar with the FFL industry, you know that industry operation inspectors are the ones that run around checking all the books at all the gun stores, making sure all the inventory is in compliance with all federal law. And they are increasing that enforcement staff by at least 160 officers. Now, if this budget request is granted, this adds to the ATF an additional 300 field officers. So what does this mean? Well, what it really means, if you take a look at 300 agents, but more than half of them are designed for enforcement on the FFL industry, is I do believe that this current administration is about to declare war on the FFL industry. And we have to actually take a look objectively at what's happening here, because this particular presidential administration during the campaign season made a tremendous amount of promises to those in the gun control community about big, bold steps that were going to be made. Now, shortly after taking the White House, this administration essentially lost just about any clout to get any significant piece of legislation done. And the likelihood that gun control measures are going to be able to be passed by this Congress at this current time with the midterm coming up is incredibly unlikely. There's great pressure on the president to do many things by executive order, but what we're seeing here instead is that we are taking the end around to the legislature, and we are actually having the ATF turn around and recodify things in the Code of Federal Regulations to expand the scope and the definitions of laws so that more things can fall under the purview of federal control. This, coupled with the fact that the ATF is playing a game of gotcha with these FFLs, clearly shows of the upcoming warfare that's about to be waged on this industry. In a letter recently given to all FFLs, an open letter on forced reset triggers, of which we have already done a video on, you will see that although they did tell the FFLs that some of these triggers may be illegal contraband, they refused to tell them which ones they were. This is the constant game of gotcha, or the moving of the goalpost, that the ATF continues to play, and right now, unfortunately, continues to play with far greater frequency. Listen, there are more problems coming on the horizon. This is really just the tip of the iceberg. What we have here now is a presidential administration that cannot pass gun control legislation. They've lost the ability and the will and the power to do so. So what they're trying to do is do an end around of our legislative branch by using the ATF to draft new CFRs, which would then encapsulate greater definitions and encapsulate more activity or components under federal control. This, my friends, is not representative government, and arguably is a violation of the separation of powers, because you have an executive branch agency now, the ATF, promulgating legislation which is reserved exclusively for an Article 1 branch of our government, or what we call Congress. So yes, in a nutshell, how is the ATF going to go about enforcing all these new regulations? Well, it appears to start with by adding 300 new agents, more than 50% of which, though, are going to be dedicated solely to carefully examining the FFL industry. Listen, I'm sure you may have more questions about this issue or anything else related to your Second Amendment rights. And if you do, don't ever hesitate to contact us at WashingtonGunLaw.com. Or, of course, you can call us directly at 425-765-0487. Now, let's remember, part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here at Washington Gun Law, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe. Hey there, everyone. Thanks for watching Washington Gun Law. Just wanted to remind all of you that we are going live once again this coming Monday, April 4th at 7 p.m. Pacific Time. That is Monday, April 4th, 7 p.m. Pacific Time, right here on YouTube. We will have lots to talk about, from the bloodbath of the legislative session we had out here in Washington to all the crazy going-ons with the ATF and your rights. So please join us Monday, April 4th, 7 p.m. In the meantime, thanks for watching and stay safe.